There's a moment, flying north from Delhi, when the clouds part and the horizon stops being flat. White peaks rise like frozen waves, stretching farther than your eyes can follow. That's when you realize the Himalayas aren't just mountains. They're a world of their own. Running for more than 2,400 kilometers across 5 countries, India, Nepal, Bhutan, China, and Pakistan, the Himalayas are the highest mountain range on Earth. They contain all 14 of the world's peaks above 8,000 meters, including Everest, the ultimate summit. But beyond those numbers lies something even greater. An entire civilization shaped by altitude, silence, and survival. The range forms what geographers call a living frontier, not a barrier, but a bridge between cultures. From the deserts of Ladakh to the jungles of Arunachal Pradesh, every valley speaks a different language, worships differently, and measures time through its own rhythm of seasons and rituals. The Himalayas are young in geological terms, still rising as the Indian tectonic plate continues to push under Asia. But to the people who live here, they are eternal. Rivers that sustain nearly 2 billion lives, the Ganges, the Indus, and the Brahmaputra, are born from their glaciers. Entire faiths find their origins among these peaks. Hinduism's Kailash, Buddhism's Lumbini, Sikhism's Hemkund Sahib. Every ridge and ravine carries a story that links earth, spirit, and survival. For travelers, the Himalayas aren't one destination but 1,000 journeys. You can trek through rhododendron forests in Sikkim, cross hanging bridges in Nepal, meditate in Bhutan's cliffside monasteries, or camp under starfields that seem close enough to touch. Yet even the most prepared visitor soon learns that the Himalayas decide how far you go, and how fast. At 1,400 meters above sea level, the air in Kathmandu carries a faint scent of incense and dust, a mix of the sacred and the everyday. Somewhere between prayer wheels spinning and motorbikes weaving through narrow streets, you realize this is where every Himalayan journey truly begins. For centuries, the Kathmandu Valley has been the beating heart of Nepal, a crossroads between India and Tibet, between merchants and monks, between myth and geography. Long before mountaineers arrived with oxygen tanks and down jackets, this valley was the hub through which salt caravans and silk traders passed on their way to the world's highest frontiers. The valley isn't just one city, but a mosaic of 3, Kathmandu, Patan, and Bhaktapur, each with its own rhythm and soul. Together, they form a living museum of newer civilization, where temples, courtyards, and pagodas still bear the intricate wood carvings of artisans whose families have been here for over 1,000 years. Start at Durbar Square, the historical core of Kathmandu, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that feels like stepping into a time capsule. Amid palace courtyards and tiered roofs, pigeons scatter as bells echo from shrines. The Hanuman Doka Palace, once home to Nepal's Malla and Shah kings, still watches over the square with a kind of quiet authority. A few streets away, the Tamil district hums with a different kind of energy, the pulse of the modern traveler. Trekking stores, cafes, and tiny bookshops sell maps, yak wool scarves, and dreams of Everest. It's chaotic, colorful, and somehow comforting. The kind of place where a Sherpa guide, A student and a backpacker might share tea and stories before heading in different directions. Cross the Bagmati River, and Kathmandu's noise softens. Here lies Patan, known for its balance of calm and craft. Its Durbar Square glows in brick and bronze. The Krishna Mandir Temple, built in the 17th century, stands out with its stone carvings depicting scenes from the Mahabharata. This city's heartbeat is found in its workshops. Inside shadowed courtyards, metal workers tap out Buddha statues by hand, using techniques unchanged for generations. It's also a reminder that the Himalayas are not only about altitude but artistry, that the same patience required to carve a temple also sustains those who climb a mountain. From almost anywhere in Kathmandu, you can see Swayambhunath, better known as the Monkey Temple, a white stupa crowned with the Buddha's all-seeing eyes, gazing in every direction. The site's origins go back more than 2,000 years, making it one of the oldest religious sites in Nepal. According to legend, the entire Kathmandu Valley was once a lake. The Bodhisattva Manjushri, seeing a lotus bloom at the center of its waters, sliced open the surrounding hills with his sword, draining the lake and creating the fertile valley we see today. At the spot where the lotus settled, Swayambhunath rose. Kathmandu sits at a comfortable 1,400 meters, making it an ideal place to acclimatize before heading higher. The best months to visit are October to April, when the skies are clear, temperatures are mild, and the mountains are visible in sharp relief. For those not venturing deep into the Himalayas, the mountain flight from Tribhuvan Airport offers a rare experience. A 1-hour panoramic flight that passes within viewing distance of Mount Everest, Lhotse, and Makalu. It's as close as you can get to the giants without leaving your seat. Kathmandu is also the gateway for treks into the Annapurna, Langtang, and Everest regions. Permits are handled here, equipment is rented here, and every trailhead, from Lukla to Pokhara, begins with this valley as its logistical and spiritual home. Despite modernization, Kathmandu remains a city that balances chaos and devotion. Morning begins with temple bells. Evening ends with candlelight and the smell of juniper smoke. Earthquakes have shaken it. Tourism has reshaped it. But its essence, the quiet resilience of people who live among gods and dust, endures. In a single day, you can walk from ancient stupas to hip rooftop cafes, from artisans hammering metal under tin roofs to monks chanting under centuries-old murals. That coexistence of past and present, sacred and ordinary, is what gives the valley its pulse. And for travelers, it offers something more than a starting point, a preparation of spirit. Before facing the silence of glaciers or the solitude of high passes, Kathmandu teaches patience, humility, and curiosity, the traits that every journey in the Himalayas demands. The journey to the world's highest mountain doesn't begin with an ascent. It begins with a flight. From Kathmandu, a small twin-engine plane rises into the morning haze, tracing the ridges northward. In just 40 minutes, the flat valley gives way to steep cliffs, deep gorges, and snow that seems to touch the sky. The landing strip at Lukla Airport, officially known as Tenzing Hillary Airport, comes into view like a dare, perched at 2,860 meters, built on a slope and ending abruptly against a wall of rock. It's often called the most dangerous airport in the world. But for trekkers, it's the only gateway to Everest. As the plane's wheels skid onto the short runway, applause fills the cabin, a shared sigh of relief and excitement. You've reached the doorstep of the Khumbu, home of the Sherpas, and the starting point of one of Earth's most iconic journeys. From Lukla, the trail begins gently, winding through pine forests and suspension bridges that swing over the Dudh Koshi River, the Milk River, named for its frothy white waters. Porters carry supplies that weigh more than they do. And yak trains, their bells echoing across valleys, carry everything from rice sacks to propane tanks. Each bend in the path reveals new contrasts. Stone mani walls carved with prayers, children in wool hats chasing after trekkers, stupas gleaming against the blue. The higher you climb, the thinner the air becomes, and so does the line between pilgrimage and adventure. After 2 days of steady ascent, the trail opens into Namche Bazaar, the capital of the Sherpa world. Built in a natural amphitheater at 3,440 meters, it's both a marketplace and meeting point, where climbers, traders, and monks cross paths. Shops sell down jackets, solar chargers, and homemade yak cheese. Internet cafes coexist with monasteries, and the smell of fresh coffee mixes with juniper smoke. Namche is also a crucial stop for acclimatization, where travelers spend a day or two adjusting before heading higher. A short hike up to the Everest View Hotel rewards you with your first clear sight of Mount Everest. Its triangular summit cutting through the horizon at 8,848 meters. For most, it's an emotional moment. The first glimpse of a mountain they've read about their whole lives. To the Sherpa people, Everest is Chomolungma, mother goddess of the world. To Nepalis, it's Sagarmatha, goddess of the sky. To the rest of the planet, it's simply the highest point on Earth. But beyond the numbers and records lies a deeper truth. Everest is as much a symbol as it is a summit. It represents endurance, aspiration, and humility, qualities tested by the mountain itself. The first successful ascent came on May 29, 1953, when Sir Edmund Hillary of New Zealand and Tenzing Norgay, a Sherpa from Khumbu, reached the top. Even today, expeditions perform puja ceremonies before climbing, asking the mountain's blessing for safe passage. Sherpa climbers, often the unsung heroes of every ascent, build the routes, carry the loads, and guide climbers through the Khumbu Icefall, one of the most dangerous sections on Earth. And yet, Sherpa is not a job title. It's an ethnic group, meaning people from the East, referring to their ancestral migration from eastern Tibet. Their culture, language, and religion are distinct, rooted in Tibetan Buddhism and shaped by life at extreme altitude. The trek from Namche to Everest Base Camp takes about a week, depending on pace and weather. Each day, trails climb higher through Tengboch, Dingboch, and Lobuch, passing rhododendron forests that gradually give way to barren rock and ice. In Tengboch, the monastery stands against a backdrop of Everest, Lhotse, and Ama Dablam, a view so perfect it feels painted. The monks' chants drift through the cold air as trekkers sip butter tea, wrapped in layers against the mountain wind. Higher up, life becomes simpler, slower. Tea houses provide hot meals and shelter. Wooden lodges heated by yak dung stoves, where strangers become friends over bowls of noodle soup. Electricity is limited, Wi-Fi unreliable. But the trade-off is silence, a rare crystalline quiet that belongs only to high places. Every breath reminds you that oxygen is scarce here. Base camp lies at 5,364 meters. The glacier crackles beneath your boots. Colorful tents dot the ice. And climbers prepare for weeks of acclimatization before attempting the summit. For most trekkers, reaching this point is the goal, not to conquer Everest, but to stand at its feet and feel its immensity. What makes the Everest region extraordinary isn't just altitude, it's the coexistence of challenge and hospitality. In a land where everything must be carried or flown in, the warmth of a Sherpa home feels monumental. Meals of dal bhat, rice and lentils, keep trekkers fueled, while the traditional greeting, Tashi Delek, meaning good fortune, echoes from one village to the next. There's a rhythm to the days, the crunch of boots on ice, the flutter of prayer flags, the rumble of avalanches somewhere distant. Between Nepal and Bhutan, tucked into the folds of the eastern Himalayas, lies Sikkim. A state so compact you could cross it in a day, yet so rich that it feels like a world unto itself. Rising from subtropical valleys to snowbound passes, Sikkim is where the Himalayas exchange their harsh grandeur for gentler, greener beauty. At its heart is Gangtok, the capital. A city that clings to steep hillsides at around 1,600 meters, where every street seems to lead to a view. On clear mornings, the horizon is dominated by Mount Kangchenjunga, the third highest mountain in the world, and Sikkim's guardian spirit. Locals begin their days with a bow toward its peaks, a gesture of quiet reverence before the noise of the markets takes over. Gangtok is lively but calm, with prayer flags strung above modern cafes, monks walking past taxis, and souvenir shops selling Buddhist scrolls alongside trekking gear. The MG Marg Promenade, the city's pedestrian heart, captures that blend perfectly. Clean, colorful, and humming with conversation. A short drive from Gangtok, across misty valleys and winding roads, lies Rumtek Monastery, one of the most important centers of Tibetan Buddhism outside Tibet. Built in the 18th century and later restored under the guidance of the 16th Karmapa, Rumtek serves as the main seat of the Karma Kagyu school, one of Tibetan Buddhism's 4 major traditions. From the courtyard, you can see the roofs of Gangtok shimmering far below, prayer wheels clacking softly in the mountain breeze. Inside, murals burst with color, mandalas, protector deities, and golden statues glowing under dim butter lamps. The sound of young monks reciting scriptures fills the air, rhythmic and endless, like the heartbeat of the hills. Sikkim's strength lies in its diversity. Here, 3 main ethnic groups, Lepcha, Bhutia, and Nepali, coexist in harmony, shaping everything from festivals to food. The Lepchas, believed to be the region's original inhabitants, call themselves Rongkup, or Children of the Snowy Peaks. Their ancient animist traditions still survive in forest rituals. And folk songs that speak of rivers as ancestors and mountains as guardians. The Bhutias, of Tibetan origin, brought monastic culture and the Tibetan script. Their influence is seen in Sikkim's architecture: whitewashed stupas, window frames painted in red and gold, and prayer flags tied to every pass. The Nepalese, who arrived later, brought new languages, crafts, and flavors, turning Sikkim into one of the most culturally blended corners of India. Festivals like Losar and Sagadawa transform monasteries into seas of color, music, and light. Drums echo across valleys, monks dance in masks, and villagers arrive from miles away to celebrate together. From Gangtok, the road climbs northward through forests of pine and magnolia, crossing roaring rivers and waterfalls that seem to pour straight from the clouds. As you gain altitude, the air cools, the vegetation thins, and prayer flags replace electricity poles. At around 3,500 meters, you reach Yumthang Valley, known as the Valley of Flowers. In spring, it's one of the most spectacular sights in the eastern Himalayas. A carpet of rhododendrons, primulas, and blue poppies stretching across the valley floor, framed by snow-capped peaks. Over 24 species of rhododendron bloom here, turning the landscape into a mosaic of pinks, reds, and purples. The valley sits within the Singba Rhododendron Sanctuary, part of Sikkim's rich network of protected ecosystems. From May to June, the region hums with life, yaks grazing by the rivers, bees hovering over alpine flowers, and clouds rolling through the meadows. Sikkim is an increasingly popular destination for trekkers and nature lovers, offering routes that balance challenge with scenery. The Dzongri Goicha La Trek, starting from Yuksum, is the most famous, leading to jaw-dropping views of Kangchenjunga and neighboring peaks. For those who prefer slower journeys, cultural homestays in villages like Lachung and Lashen offer a glimpse into mountain life. Evenings around kitchen fires, butter tea steaming in wooden bowls, and stories of yaks, deities, and snowstorms that lasted months. Wildlife enthusiasts might spot red pandas, Himalayan monals, and even the elusive snow leopard in Sikkim's high-altitude sanctuaries. Between the folds of the eastern Himalayas, where clouds rest like silk scarves upon forested ridges, lies a kingdom that measures wealth not in gold, but in happiness. Bhutan, the land of the thunder dragon, is a place where time moves differently, as though the mountains themselves dictate the rhythm of life. The descent into Paro Valley feels almost mythical, a brief glimpse of emerald fields framed by whitewashed houses with painted windows, then a runway carved out of the earth itself. Only a handful of pilots in the world are certified to land here, threading between mountain walls that seem to close in as the plane dips and turns. It's not just a landing, it's a rite of passage into a world that has chosen stillness over speed. From Paro, the trail climbs toward one of the world's most extraordinary sanctuaries. Paro Taktsang, the Tiger's Nest Monastery. Perched 3,120 meters above sea level, it clings to a sheer cliff like a guardian between earth and sky. Legend says that Guru Rinpoche, the founder of Tibetan Buddhism, flew here on the back of a tigress and meditated in a cave for 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days. Today, pilgrims still climb the stone path in silence, spinning prayer wheels as juniper smoke curls through the thin air. Each step feels heavier, not from altitude but from reverence, the sense of walking within a living myth. The monastery itself is a masterpiece of devotion. Its golden roofs shimmer against the granite. Its wooden balconies overlook a sea of clouds. Monks move quietly through corridors lit by butter lamps, their chants merging with the wind. No sound is wasted here. Every whisper is a prayer, every echo a reminder that spirituality in Bhutan is not practiced. It is lived. Further east, Thimphu, the capital, is both a city and a statement. No traffic lights, only hand signals. No billboards, only murals of deities and dragons. It is one of the few capitals on earth where the air feels sacred, where modern life moves without trampling the past. In cafes, young Bhutanese scroll through smartphones before bowing to elders in traditional Go and Kira. Across the street, monks stream into monasteries with laptops tucked under their robes. The old and the new coexist, not in competition, but in quiet conversation. Bhutan's philosophy of gross national happiness, an idea both idealistic and profound, is its compass. It values well-being over wealth, culture over consumption, and environment over expansion. Every visitor must pay a daily sustainability fee, a policy that limits mass tourism, but ensures that every step taken here contributes to preservation. The result is a rare kind of purity, not untouched, but consciously cared for. Drive further to Punakha, the former capital, and the landscape transforms once again. Terraced fields gleam in the sunlight, and the Punakha Dzong, standing at the confluence of two rivers, glows like a dream in white and gold. In spring, purple jacaranda trees bloom around its walls, painting reflections across the water. Once, this was the seat of kings and monks, where coronations and spiritual debates took place. Today, its courtyards echo with chants and the flutter of crimson robes as young monks memorize verses under ancient cypress trees. Festivals, or sekis, erupt here in color and movement. Dancers in swirling silk masks become gods, demons, and heroes, enacting ancient tales of virtue and illusion. What defines Bhutan isn't isolation, but intention. It has chosen to be small, to grow slowly, to breathe deeply. And in that restraint lies its secret strength. The snow-fed rivers that carve through its valleys, the forests that cover over 70% of its land, the prayer flags that carry blessings into the wind, all speak of a covenant between humanity and nature. Before the peaks turn barren and the snows harden into silence, there's a place where water is worshipped as life itself, where the Himalayas breathe not just clouds, but creation. This is the northern heart of India's mountains, where every stream carries a story, every rock remembers a hymn. It begins in Rishikesh, the self-proclaimed yoga capital of the world. The town rests along the emerald waters of the Ganges, at the very foothills of the Himalayas, a threshold between plains and peaks, between the material and the divine. Here, the air hums with mantras and the clink of temple bells. Sadhus in saffron robes walk barefoot through narrow lanes perfumed with incense and marigolds. Across suspension bridges named after deities, Laxman Jula and Ram Jula, pilgrims, students, and seekers from around the world move in quiet procession. Rishikesh is more than a pilgrimage site. It's a state of mind. It was here that yoga found its global voice, where ashrams like Parmarth Niketan and Sivananda taught breath, stillness, and balance to travelers from across the earth. But the Ganges story does not end here. It begins far beyond. The pilgrim road climbs north, winding through pine forests and landslides, past small towns where prayer flags hang like faded rainbows. The journey leads to Gangotri, a sacred village at nearly 3,100 meters above sea level, where the goddess is said to have first descended from heaven. Here stands the Gangotri temple, built in white granite, overlooking a river so clear it seems woven from light. Yet the true birthplace of the Ganges lies farther still. At the Gangotri Glacier, source of the Bhagirathi River, the trek to its snout, known as Gomukh, is both arduous and ethereal. The air thins, the vegetation fades, and soon there is only ice and wind. The glacier groans and shimmers, ancient, immense, alive. Meltwater trickles down from beneath it, forming the first rivulets of the river that will one day nourish hundreds of millions. For the pilgrims who make this journey, it is not just geography, it is Genesis. The Ganges is not merely a river, she is Ma Ganga, the mother, purifier, and protector. Her waters, though born in the coldest heights, flow warm with devotion. People carry her in copper pots to distant temples, believing that even a single drop can cleanse the weight of lifetimes. Beyond Gangotri, the road bends westward toward another sanctum of snow and spirit, Kedarnath. At over 3,500 meters, the temple of Lord Shiva stands alone against a wall of peaks, rebuilt time and again from stone and faith. Around these valleys, adventure and asceticism intertwine. Trekking routes cross paths with pilgrimage trails. Whitewater rafters share the same river that carries holy ashes to the sea. From Devprayag, where the Bhagirathi meets the Alaknanda to form the Ganges, to Rishikesh, where seekers sit in lotus pose by the shore, the river unites opposites, devotion and daring, serenity and struggle. At over 3,500 meters above sea level, Ladakh looks less like part of India and more like another planet. A vast, silent plateau of ochre ridges and turquoise lakes, it sits high in the rain shadow of the Himalayas, where the monsoon clouds rarely reach. Here, mountains wear no forests. Rivers run in ribbons of silver. And every sound, the whistle of wind, the flutter of prayer flags, seems sharper in the thin air. The journey begins in Leh, the capital and heartbeat of Ladakh. Once a vital stop on the ancient Silk Route between Tibet and Central Asia, Leh still carries the traces of its trading past. Its old town rises in tiers around Leh Palace, a 17th century structure modeled after the Potala Palace in Lhasa. The narrow alleys below are lined with souvenir shops, bakeries, and guest houses catering to travelers who arrive breathless from the altitude. At 3,524 meters, acclimatization isn't optional, it's survival. Most visitors spend their first days exploring slowly, walking the bazaar, sipping butter tea in tiny cafes, or watching locals spin prayer wheels outside Shanti Stupa, a white-domed monument overlooking the Indus Valley. From its terrace, the entire landscape unfolds, a mosaic of green oases surrounded by brown desert and snow-dusted peaks. Leh is also where most expeditions begin. From motorbiking routes that cross some of the world's highest roads to treks that follow ancient footpaths to remote monasteries. Ladakh's culture is deeply Tibetan Buddhist, and its monasteries, or gompas, are not just places of worship, but centers of learning and art. The most famous Hemis Monastery lies 45 kilometers from Leh. Founded in the 17th century, it is home to the annual Hemis Festival, where masked monks perform sacred dances that reenact the triumph of good over evil. Drums echo through the valley, horns blare, and the air fills with the smell of incense and juniper. Other notable monasteries include Thixi, a multi-tiered complex that mirrors the Potala in its architecture, and Alchi, known for its 1,000-year-old murals that blend Indian and Kashmiri artistic influences. Each gompa is perched strategically on a hill or cliff, overlooking rivers and villages, part fortress, part sanctuary. The people of Ladakh, primarily of Tibetan and Balti descent, live with a remarkable balance of resilience and warmth. In the short summer, they cultivate barley, peas, and mustard in terraced fields irrigated by glacier melt. In winter, temperatures plunge below -20 degrees Celsius, and communities retreat indoors, relying on stored grains and yak dung fires for heat. The hospitality here is legendary. A cup of butter tea is offered before you've even introduced yourself. No image defines Ladakh quite like Pangong TSO, a lake that stretches nearly 135 kilometers, straddling the border between India and China. At an altitude of 4,350 meters, its waters are saline and lifeless, yet stunningly vibrant. Depending on the hour and the angle of the sun, the lake changes color. Deep blue at dawn, turquoise by noon, and bronze under evening clouds. The journey from Leh to Pangong crosses the Changla Pass, one of the world's highest motorable roads. The route is harsh but hypnotic. With stark ridges, sudden valleys, herds of yaks, and the occasional army convoy. By the time the lake appears, surrounded by mountains reflected in its still surface, the silence feels almost sacred. Camping near Pangong has become a signature Ladakh experience. Nights are cold, but the sky is luminous with stars. For adventure travelers, Ladakh is a playground of extremes. The Kardung La Pass, once considered the highest motorable road on Earth, rises to 5,359 meters and connects Leh to the Nubra Valley. Crossing it feels like stepping from one planet to another. The rocky desert gives way to sand dunes and the gentle curves of the Shyok River. Bactrian camels, descendants of Silk Road caravans, graze in the dunes of Hunter, adding an almost surreal contrast to the snow-covered peaks around. In recent years, Ladakh has become a hotspot for trekking and mountain biking, especially along routes like the Marka Valley and the Stok Kangri Base Camp. The air may be thin, but the sense of vastness, of space untouched by noise or time, is intoxicating. In winter, the frozen Zanskar River becomes the path of the Chadar Trek, linking remote villages by ice. Despite its harsh environment, Ladakh supports a surprising range of wildlife. The high-altitude plateaus are home to Himalayan blue sheep, Tibetan wild ass, and, if you're exceptionally lucky, the elusive snow leopard. The Himalayas National Park, covering over 4,000 square kilometers, is one of the best places in the world to spot this ghost of the mountains. Conservation efforts here focus on balancing tourism with fragile ecosystems, a challenge as climate change alters snowfall and water patterns. Local NGOs in the community have also embraced ecotourism, encouraging homestays that provide income while preserving Ladakhi culture. Solar power, composting toilets, and waste reduction programs are now part of the region's travel ethos, a reflection of the same sustainability that defines life here. Ladakh's beauty lies not just in its landscapes, but in its silence. There's something humbling about standing at 5,000 meters and realizing how small you are in the face of such immensity. The desert winds carry stories of traders, monks, and wanderers who passed long before the first jeep ever climbed these roads. But what do you think? Let us know in the comment section below. And make sure to explore the wonders of Pakistan too.